Coming up on Face the State, energy costs are at their highest this time of year. And if you want to bring them down for good, you might consider solar energy. We'll talk about what it takes to install solar panels at your home. Then, single-stream recycling started in Reno at the beginning of the year, but there's still some confusion about what can go in those bins. I'll clear it all up when Face the State starts right after the break. Welcome to Face the State. I'm Ariana Bennett. Thank you for joining us. Well, with power bills at their peak this time of year, it's easy to think all this sunshine is our enemy, but more and more people are making the sun work for them. Reid Hamilton of Hamilton Solar is here to talk about putting solar panels on your house. Now, Reid, we've seen solar technology change a lot over the past couple of decades. It's not new technology, but it's made a lot of changes.
Absolutely. Or just in the last 2 years since you and I last spoke, the cost of solar has come down somewhere between 50 to 70%.
Right. And that was one of the things that was most prohibitive about this technology. I think a lot of people, especially on a smaller scale, said, well, it's not necessarily the best idea for my home, but that's changing.
Absolutely. In the past, there was a misconception that solar was either for hippies or really rich people. And that's just not the case anymore. Solar is really, really affordable. You're going to see, if you invest in solar for your home, you're going to see somewhere between a 5 to 8% return on your money, which is a really darn good investment for something that it's going to happen so long as the sun comes up.
Are you seeing a big uptick in people wanting to do this with their homes?
A substantial uptick. There's a new rebate coming out from NV Energy here in just a couple weeks. When that rebate comes out, it's already starting to create a lot of energy, so people are very, very interested in it. And we're actually hiring a whole new sales team for this.
Now, you guys have been doing this for how many years?
So we've been around for 5 years, and so we're actually kind of a dinosaur when it comes to solar in the state of Nevada, and we operate in both the north and the south.
Yeah, and it really is. I mean, it's a technology that is really uniquely perfect for Nevada, where we get how many days of sunshine a year? 300?
Yeah, we get a little over 300. We're actually, I think, the second best spot in the United States for solar, because we have 300 days of sun a year, and we actually elevation, so it keeps things a little bit cooler, so the panels are more efficient. It's just it's a fantastic place for solar. Okay,
so people now can look at potentially putting it on their homes or their small businesses. How long does it take to do something like this?
To actually install a solar system for a home, it's going to take anywhere from 1 to 3 days. For a business, it's going to take, anywhere, it depends on the size of the system, a week to a few months. Now, the payback, is that maybe what you were asking, how long it takes? Residential, it's going to depend. We actually have, what's really cool, we have solar financing now, which is brand new to us in the last couple months. And so you can get a solar loan on your house, and essentially your loan payment's almost going to be very similar to what you're paying NV Energy. And so it's like, hey, you might as well pay yourself versus pay the utility. And so your return on that is going to be a couple years. If you pay cash, somewhere between 10 to 12 years on your home. Where there's a huge change coming up on this rebate that I'm talking about is with businesses, it's going to be about a 5 to 8 year payback, which is really, really good.
Wow. How much space do you need?
It's going to depend. Average home, a couple hundred square feet. Business, I mean, it really just depends. I meet with some users who use $20,000 a month in electricity, and we need all the space they can give us. So other people, anywhere between 30, 60,000 square feet for businesses.
Is the average home roof big enough for solar panels?
Yeah, there really is no average in solar, but very rarely do we come across roofs that we can't work with, because we can go all the way from due east to due west and everything in between. So we can find a roof pitch that is actually going to make sense for solar.
And a lot of homes in Reno are doing this.
A tremendous amount. So long as, we're very fortunate in Reno that we don't have a ton of big trees. So long as you don't live in the old Southwest, you probably are a good opportunity for solar.
Right, because shade kind of makes it a no-go.
It makes it more challenging, to say the least. Yep.
Right, so it doesn't matter really which direction it's facing as long as it gets how many hours of sun a day?
Well, it does, the direction does matter. Like I said, we can go all the way from the east, south is the best, and then to the west. And then we actually do a model, so we can tell you basically, plus or minus 5% what your system will produce on an annual basis.
Is it possible to produce all the energy you need for your home?
All the electricity you need for your home, okay. Absolutely, yeah. So that's what we do. There's two types of solar. There's solar thermal, which is going to do hot water, and then solar electric. You're going to see a lot more solar electric around town. For example, Reid High School, North Valleys, those are projects we did a couple years ago. Those are projects I call kind of had the ripple effect. Those are going to have a really big impact on the community, and they're going going to affect the Washoe County School District's budget when it comes to electricity.
And by that you mean because they generate all this energy that goes into the grid and they get that back in savings?
Exactly. So imagine this way: you put solar on your roof. It's sunny outside. Instead of your meter spinning forwards and you're buying power, you're actually spinning your meter backwards and you're sending that power back into the utility grid. If you're not using that meter, or if you're not using that electricity at that moment, you actually get credit for it. So it's like rollover minutes on your cell phone.
Okay. So how does the rebate program work? Do you get an upfront payment, or is it every month? Do they buy back what you don't use?
Really good question. So it's actually changing. We're really, really excited about it. Solar in Nevada is a total game changer here in the next couple months. For residential systems or systems under 25 kilowatts, it's an upfront cash incentive. And what's exciting about this is in the past, if you wanted to go solar and get a rebate from NV Energy, you had to actually enter into the lottery program. And so a lot of people would sign up and hopefully you got your name pulled out of the hat. Not the case anymore. If you want to go solar, absolutely, there's going to be rebates there waiting for you. And so it's really exciting. Now, that being said, there is still a little bit of a sense of urgency because there's 3 steps coming out, and they step down in value every time. And they almost get cut in half each step. So if you're interested in solar, you definitely want to do it sooner rather than later.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And there's no limit. I mean, I think I read that anyone can apply for it, and all NV Energy customers at least qualify to apply.
In the past, we had essentially, I think, what it was called like the Walmart rule or something like that, where companies with 500 or more employees were not allowed to apply. That rule has been taken away, and then also commercial customers were capped at 50 kilowatts, which is a relatively small system for commercial. Now that's been taken from 50 kilowatts all the way up to 500 kilowatts, and so there's a whole audience that we haven't been able to speak with for the last 5 years that now solar makes a ton of financial sense for them.
Yeah, it's interesting to see because I think a lot of people probably have that impression of solar energy that it just wasn't a feasible thing in its older form. But how is it different now? I mean, other than just being cheaper.
So the technology really hasn't changed that much. We gain about 0.5% efficiency per year. And look, they've always wanted to do solar, but it just, unfortunately, didn't make economic sense. And very, very rarely do people do it for the environmental reasons. I always say, hey, that's the cherry on top. So I don't mean to be labeled hey, it's just getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. It's just, it is because there's more financing options available. The cost of the materials come down. There's a lot more competition. Google's getting involved with solar. So big players are getting involved. Wall Street's starting to invest in it. So people are going, okay, this actually makes sense for the masses. That being said, we're only at like 1% penetration nationwide. So we
really?
have a really, really long ways to go. And every year we get a little bit closer to being able to produce energy at the same price as coal, natural gas. So
what's the penetration here locally, do you know?
I don't. I don't. Somewhere maybe 2-3%. Maybe not even that high.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of people still could take advantage of this.
Oh my gosh. I mean, how often do you drive around town and see solar panels? Well, not that often. A tremendous amount of people can take advantage of it. So,
are there different ways you can make it more aesthetically pleasing, depending on the homeowner?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we have, your tiers, right? So you can buy what I call like the Bentley of solar, the best looking solar panel. It's black on black. It matches great with concrete tile. It also produces more energy than everything, but it comes at a premium. Mm-hmm. And then there's other panels that are a little bit more affordable, but they might not be as aesthetically pleasing to some people.
Okay.
So.
All right, now let's talk about cost. I think I saw on your website it ranges between $10,000 input cost to $25,000.
Yeah.
Most people fall in that range?
Most people absolutely are going to fall into that range. And so an example, talking about subsidies and stuff like that. So solar is going to cost $20,000 up front for your house. Well, one of the biggest subsidies, there's a 30% federal tax credit, which is good until the end of 2016.
Right.
So there's that another like, oh man, if we're going to do it, we have between now until the end of 2016 to get a 30% discount. So a $20,000 solar system really only costs you $14,000 because you get a tax credit. And it's not a deduction, it's actual tax credit.
And then how long did you say before it starts to pay itself off?
For residential, gosh, it can vary anywhere, 10, 12 years, somewhere in that range. If you do a loan, it starts to pay for itself in a year or so.
Okay, so if someone's interested in doing this, you send someone out. I mean, tell me what you look for in a home that would qualify.
So the cool part about solar, it's relatively simple, but we have to educate everybody because it's new to them, right? And so what we typically do, people contact us, and we do a lot of due diligence actually on Google Earth. And so by the time we get out to somebody's house, we usually have a layout, we have a pretty good idea of what a system's going to cost them. we'd take a tour of their house, or we take a tour of their facility around an hour or so, and by that point we can say, hey, your solar system's going to cost you X, the payback's going to be Y, and you're going to be absolutely happy with it.
And then installing it just takes a day or two?
For the average residential system, call it anywhere between 1 to 3 days, and then commercial projects, like I said, they can vary from a week to a few months.
Okay, now what happens if the power goes out? I mean, do you still have power going to your home, or is the power going to the grid?
No, the power is actually going to go out as well, and that's to protect firemen and the people for NV Energy, because if they come in and they want to be sure that that solar system is not actually producing energy. That being said, there's a really cool new inverter, and the inverter is what converts the power from DC to AC electricity, and that has plugins, and so the whole house will shut down power-wise if the utility goes out, but that inverter will still be having energy, and so you can actually plug an extension cord into it and run a small portion of your home on it.
Okay. What about batteries? Can you store the energy in batteries?
The battery technology is actually getting really, really exciting, and with some major players who might be entering the market here in a little bit, it'll even get more exciting. But we're a few years away from solar batteries actually making economic sense, so therefore it won't get out to the masses and for a little while.
Okay, so not yet. So for now, any extra energy you produce, you can't really use it. It goes.
You do. You don't get to use it, but it's like rollover minutes on your cell phone.
Okay.
You spin your meter backwards. NV Energy gives you credit for it. You're going to produce more energy than you're going to use in the summer, and then you're going to use that energy up in the winter.
So for your electrical bill, you could literally see a zero on that bill?
You could see a zero on it. You're still going to have a connection fee for a couple bucks,
Okay.
right? But yeah, absolutely. We can zero out your bill.
I don't even know what I would do if I looked at my NV Energy bill and it was like $3.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. People are going solar because it's just like, hey, what do I want to do? I want to control my expenses, whether you're a business or your homeowner. I actually was meeting with my financial advisor the other day, and I was explaining to him the benefits of solar, and he was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to you, have you do a seminar for people who are in the retiree age, because what we want to do is control expenses.
Right.
If you can lock in that rate, you're off and running.
Yeah.
So.
Something to consider, definitely, for all of the sunshine we get in Northern
Well,
Nevada.
no doubt about it. Yeah.
All right, Reid, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really, really interesting stuff. Now, if you'd like more information on the NV Energy rebate program or just solar panels in general, you can head to our website, ktvn.com. We have links posted there for you. Reid, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
All righty. Coming up on Face the State, it's been 6 months since the city of Reno started single-stream recycling. We will check in to see how it's going and find out exactly what you can and cannot put in those bins right after the break.